Hey, what's up, guys? It's your boy Zach here. Welcome to another epic fan fiction, where we dive into the world of what ifs. Today, we're exploring a fascinating crossover. What if Naruto, the beloved ninja from the Hidden Leaf Village, became Zoro, the skilled swordsman from the Straw Hat Pirates? A boy with green hair, worn out clothes, is lying on the grass. There are trees around him, and he is surrounded by thick bush. He opens his eyes and looks at the unfamiliar place. Huh? Where am? Stinging pain suddenly assaults his head as memories flash in his brain. He starts to remember a lot of things, like his previous life as a poor man who did anything to fill his stomach, but then died in winter after being chased out of the small room he rented because he couldn't pay. His name was Eddie, and he died at the age of 25 in his previous life. Yes, previous life, because he's sure he has died. He thinks that he somehow survived, but after a while, he's sure he has been reincarnated because he has a different body. This body is much smaller than my previous body. There's no way that my body could shrink. Reincarnation sounds more possible. But why didn't I reincarnate as a baby? Sigh. I always wanted to have parents, but I still don't have them even after reincarnation. In his previous life, he has been an orphan since he can remember things. He never knew who his parents were as he grew without his real parents. The ones who raised him were some homeless people who used him to gain pity from pedestrians as they begged when he was a baby until he can beg on his own. He was sick of being a beggar, so he tried to get a real job. It wasn't easy to find a job because he wasn't educated. But then he got lucky and got a job as a janitor in a new company. They needed some janitors urgently, and he applied at the right time. He managed to save up his money and then rented a small apartment. But life was still hard because his wage was barely enough for him to live. Still, at least he had a roof over his head, and he could eat 3 meals a day, even if those were just cheap food. It was still better than when he lived on the street as a beggar. He thought nothing would change, but then the company went bankrupt after he worked for 5 years there. He didn't know the reason, but he knew he lost his job. After that, he tried to find another job, but of course, it was difficult for an uneducated person like him. He could read and calculate because the people in his previous workplace taught him quite a lot of things. But he didn't have any school certificate, so he couldn't get any job. Until eventually, he ran out of money to pay his rent. So he was kicked out of the apartment, and it was winter. He didn't have any choice but to live on the street as he tried to get a job. But he didn't get any, and eventually he also ran out of money to buy food. He tried scrapping from trash or anything to fill his belly. But then he got severe food poisoning and couldn't do anything because of it. The winter was also very bad at that time, as the temperature gets very low. With an empty stomach, he couldn't endure the freezing winter and died. Now, he is reincarnated, but he still doesn't have any parents. There's nothing he can do about it though, so he accepts it quickly. The problem is what he will do from now on. Is this like those anime stories my former colleagues like to watch? This should be another world, right? The young office workers often watched anime in their break time or when they ditched work, and he often joined them. They were also the ones teaching him how to read and calculate when they were free. Anyway, he is quite familiar with this plot of being reincarnated to another world because it was a popular anime genre before he died. But the MCs of those stories usually have unusually powerful abilities while he is reincarnated as a weak young homeless boy. Maybe I should try saying that. Status. Nothing happened. Fuck. Do I need to say it out loud? Status. Nothing happened at all. Motherfucker. Will I really live this second life without any kind of special ability? Then why do I keep my memories? It would be better if I don't have any memories of my past life, because it only gives me false hope. Sometimes having false hope is better than not having any hope at all. Suddenly, he hears a voice from his left, which startles him. He turns his head and sees an orange cat with white stripes staring at him. He frowns and looks around to find the person who has just talked. "What are you looking for?" "Hey man, can you show yourself if you want to say something to me?" Suddenly, a paw grabs his face and pulls it to look at the orange cat that looks pissed. "I was the one that said those things. Seems like I am hallucinating. I actually think a cat is talking. I am Tao King." "Ah, I see. I've gotten crazy. Bastard. I know you are messing with me." The orange cat scratches his cheek, making him scream in pain. "Hey, all right, I'm sorry. But it's still surreal to hear a cat talking, even if I've assumed this is a different world. Good grief. This is why I don't want to deal with a reincarnated human. Why, I'm a reincarnated person. Of course, kid. After all, I am your guide, your assistant for your second life." "Guide?" "Yeah. You've watched some anime about other worlds' reincarnation, right? The protagonists of those stories usually have assistants in the form of something like game systems. I am also an assistant, but my form is a cat because the god that reincarnated you thinks it's ridiculous for a living being to have a game system. He said people aren't computers, so they shouldn't have a user interface in their brain. Well, maybe it was convenient to use in those stories." "Oh, you have the same opinion as that god." He also said that the systems in those stories were made because the writers were lazy, as it is a very convenient tool to use in their stories. That, or they were just too obsessed with games. Also, he can't give you a system because you won't be able to use it." "Huh? What do you mean I won't be able to use it? You never played video games that use similar systems as those stories, right?" "Yeah, I didn't have money to play those games, or to be precise, I couldn't buy the devices to play those games. I could only hear others talk about those games or watch them play from afar. So I don't really understand it." He was so poor that he couldn't afford to even buy smartphones. He only had an old second-hand phone that was only useful to receive calls from work. It was almost never used, but he always charged it and brought it all the time because it was like his treasure. A system will be useless if you don't know how to use it. So God thought that it would be easier for you if your assistant is an intelligent living being that can talk to you. That's why he created me to be your guide." "Ah, that makes sense. So, what's the deal?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, why does God reincarnate me? It's not like I am the only human on Earth that can be reincarnated. Furthermore, I am not smart nor have any decent skills. But he chose me out of everyone on Earth." "Ha, you said you aren't smart. But you surely are not stupid. You were just unfortunate in your previous life and couldn't get a good education. Just answer my question. You are my assistant, right?" "Well, I'm just about to answer. There are 2 reasons. First, you weren't supposed to die yet. You still have 37 years of lifespan. But the Grim Reaper mistaken you for someone else and took your life instead. The target has a very similar appearance and soul wavelength with you, so he mistakenly took your soul. I don't know what soul wavelength is, but how could that person have a very similar appearance to me? It's because he was your twin brother. A real twin brother related to you by blood." "What? I have a twin brother?" "Yes, and he lived with your parents. You were actually kidnapped from the hospital when you were still a baby by your father's ex-girlfriend. She was very jealous of your mother and planned to kidnap your brother. However, your brother was born with a weak body, so he was placed in the ICU for a few weeks, which made her unable to kidnap him and could only kidnap you. Then she left you on the street far from your parents' home, and the homeless people took you to help them make money." What the cat says really shocks him. He doesn't know if it's actually true or the cat just lies to him, but it makes him think that his life would be much better if he lived with his blood family. Your parents actually still tried to find you to this day, using your twin brother's picture because they think that you will have similar faces. But the police didn't take this case seriously because it's been too long since you're missing. They finally found you only because the police needed to find your identity after your dead body was found. Damn police. Tears flow out of his eyes because his whole life has been ruined by a jealous bitch. Do you want to see what your blood family looks like? Sure. I am very curious about what my parents and brother look like. The cat puts its right paw on the ground, and many black characters in the form of a circle appear on the ground. Then, with a poof of smoke, a piece of paper appears. The cat gives the paper to the boy, and he looks at it. There's a picture of a family of 3. A strict-looking middle-aged man, a middle-aged woman with a warm smile, a tomboy-looking girl, and a young man sitting in a wheelchair. His eyes widen when he sees the young man's face because it looks just like him. Now he gets fully convinced that they are twins. But there are differences like how his twin brother is thinner, looks very pale, and doesn't have hair. Their difference in hairstyle could be the biggest reason why no one could recognize him. But he knows his face well enough to know what he'll look like if he's bald. Your parents were truly heartbroken when they saw your dead body. They finally found the son they've been searching for years. But when they finally found you, you've already died. You're actually fated to be found by your family a while after your brother's supposed death. But then this mess happened. So to compensate you for this, we are reincarnating you to another world. The cat's explanation is long, but the boy just listens to it all. After all, he was always curious about his blood family, but he never had the chance to even know them before. Now he will never be able to see them with his own eyes, even once, because he has died in that world. So, what about this world? And why did I suddenly become this boy? He asks while removing his tears. There's no point in being sad about it for too long, because life will still go on for him. Remember an anime that many of your colleagues were obsessed with? The title was Naruto. Was it the one about pirates? That's One Piece. Well, it was also popular, and many of your colleagues watched it. Naruto was the one about ninjas. The main character was a blonde kid with 3 stripes of whiskers on each of his cheek. He is dreaming to be his ninja village's leader, a Hokage. Ah, I remember it now. But I didn't watch all its episodes because I could only watch the ones my colleague played in the office, which were just a few. I know. That's why God is preparing a few things to help you. But first, let's heal you. The cat puts its paws on his cheeks, and green light suddenly covers the paws. The scratches that the cat made start to disappear slowly. Then they all gone after a while. Ooh, so this is magic. Well, it's called ninjutsu here, but I guess it is basically like magic. Anyway, about your body. It is not something born from this world's natives. In other words, you aren't born from a man and a woman in this world. Like Adam. Right, like that guy. God created your body using the cells of your body in previous life, because only your original body can hold your soul perfectly. But your DNA has been modified, so you can use this world's power. Ah, I don't understand. Please use words that someone like me can understand. Basically, God personally made your current body using your old body, but with some changes. So you don't have any blood relative in this world. Your memories have just returned because you were too young before, so your brain couldn't handle your past life's memories yet. Ah, okay? Anyway, this place isn't good for talking. Let's go to the town. Town. Yeah, there's a town nearby. I've arranged everything so you can enter the town legally. The cat gives him a small blue book with a cloud covered by lightning bolts logo on the cover. It's an ID book, similar to a passport in your previous world. Though you never had a passport because you never went to other countries, so you didn't need it. Must you mention that? Of course. Anyway, you can enter any town in this country with that. Land of Iron. An interesting name for a country. Hmm. Roronoa Zoro. That's the name of the body. When God made your body, it somehow turned to look like Zoro's body. So he decided to just give you that name. Zoro is a character from One Piece, the one about pirates. How could I turn out to look like him? God said he was thinking about Zoro's battle with a powerful enemy when he made the body. So even if he used your original body cells as the base, the result is very different from your real body's appearance. Well, there are other changes, but I can't explain it now. Just as the cat said, he can enter the town easily after showing the book. The cat doesn't need any ID. It just sits on his left shoulder, and the guards don't bother with the cat. Then he walks into the town before continuing the conversation. Your answer worries me. What can you do, even if you are worried? Just accept it and do what you can. Sigh, right? Anyway, I have a question. What is it? How do I get rich? How to get a lot of money. Wait, why do you suddenly want to get rich? Those Ice Guy MCs usually want to get power, you know. Well, I only want a good life, so money is the most important. You're not wrong, but I don't know how to make you rich. I only know how to make you strong. Well, the only way I can think of is you use your power to get money by doing some jobs like escorting merchants, being a mercenary, or hunting criminals to get their bounties. I don't know how to build a business, so that's the only way I can think of. Furthermore, you will need to have power no matter what. This is a more dangerous world than your previous world, so you can only protect yourself if you are strong. You're right. That means you can make me strong. Not make you strong. I can only help you get stronger. How strong you are depends on yourself, because your body was made by God. So you have a great talent, and the result depends on your effort. All right. Then should we start training immediately? No, you need to study first. Training will be much easier if you are smart. Though the problem isn't your IQ, but your knowledge. You have too little basic knowledge because you weren't schooled. So you'll start learning basic knowledge that you'll need to live in this world. And you will teach me those things? Of course. That's my job as your assistant. But it doesn't mean I know everything. So there are still things I can't teach you, and you need to learn them yourself. All right. So what should I learn first? First, I'll teach you more about this world and a good way to get food. You are very malnourished, and the brain needs nutrients to work properly. But you are too weak now, so our options are limited. The method to get food that the cat decides to teach Zoro is hunting using traps. It's almost impossible for a weak kid with no money like him to get food from this small town. So he needs to get the food from outside, and hunting is the fastest way. But because he is still very weak, he can't hunt them using weapons. That's why the cat will teach him to hunt using traps that are easy to make. The traps they'll use are snares and cage traps, which are easier to make and safer. They gather the materials like ropes and rather big containers like wooden crates or thrown-out buckets that have some holes on them. Those materials are easy to find in the town's garbage dump. The cat leads him there to get the materials. There are also some kids in the garbage dump that rummage through the trash. The cat says they are orphans who look for food among the trash. It reminds Zoro of himself in his previous life when he was a kid. Anyway, they find ropes, wooden crates, and even broken buckets there. They are even lucky enough to get a knife in the metal trash section. The knife has been snapped in half, but it's still quite sharp, so it will be useful to cut things. Then they go to the forest, but only enter the outskirts because it will be too dangerous if they go too deep. The cat shows Zoro how to find animal tracks that they'll use to find the best place to set the traps. For an inexperienced person, it's not easy to find animal tracks. It isn't very noticeable like the ones in cartoons. But the cat says that great hunters can see the tracks at a glance because of their experience. By the way, What's your name, Mr. Cat? It just doesn't feel right to keep calling you Mr. Cat. You can call me Toro. Toro then finds an animal track and predicts it as a wild chicken track. They will only hunt small animals because this is still just their first hunt. Then they search for a good spot to place their trap, and after finding it, they start setting the trap. The trap that Toro chose is a snare trap because their target is a small animal. It's also an easy trap to set. Besides, they still haven't made the cage for the cage trap, and it will take quite some time to make, so a snare is better for now. But even if it's an easy trap, Zoro still needs time to set it, because he never made it before. They place the snare traps in some locations to increase the chance of them catching some prey. They also use bait on the traps. The bait is some leftover food they got from the garbage dump. While waiting for the snare traps to catch their prey, they are making the cage traps. The items they'll use to make the cages are small, so they can only target small animals too. Their targets are squirrels now, so they will place the traps on the trees. It's almost dark already when they finish setting the last cage trap, so they quickly check the snare traps to see if they catch something. They are quite lucky because they managed to catch a wild chicken and a hare out of 6 snare traps they set. Good thing, right, kid? You won't be starving tonight. Yeah, but I will freeze to death again. I still don't have a place to sleep. Oh, crap. Toro forgets to prepare a place for Zoro to sleep. Do you like camping? Without any other choices, Toro decided to spend the night in the forest. They are building a shelter using wood leaves. The result isn't that good because they make it hastily as it starts to get dark. They also make a campfire to warm themselves and cook the meat they got. They can only cook the pieces of meat by roasting them. But the taste is very plain because they don't have any seasonings. We need to earn money quickly. We need to at least secure a living place and buy seasonings. The only way I can think of now is by selling what we hunted. Tomorrow, I will look for places to sell our game. After all, there's no adventurer guild here, so we need to find buyers ourselves. But we need to be careful or we'll get scammed, so I'll check them first. All right. I already know the gist of how to set those traps. Let's hope we'll get quite a lot of prey tomorrow. They quickly sleep, so they will be ready for tomorrow. Zoro already accepted his new life and acts normally. He doesn't have that much attachment to his previous life, after all. His only regret is he knows about his blood family after he died. But it doesn't affect him too much because he is used to living alone. The night is cold, but the fire gives them some warmth. They also use leaves as blankets to block the cold wind. Toro can sense animals if they get closer, so they will be safe. But the insects, especially the mosquitoes, are big problems. The smoke somehow repels them a bit, but there are still some that bite him. It's annoying at first, but he eventually falls asleep, ignoring the mosquito bites. He is just too tired, so he falls asleep despite the disturbances. The next day, Zoro eats some of the meat he saved for breakfast before going to check the traps while Toro goes to the town. He set them again after checking them yesterday and hoped to catch some prey at night. Unfortunately, the first trap he checks breaks. The branch he used to tie the rope snaps, most likely due to a big animal that gets caught. It must be too big and strong for the snare trap to hold. It's unfortunate, but he needs to leave it and check the other traps. In the end, the snare traps manage to catch just a wild turkey. It's just one prey, but the turkey is quite big, so Zoro is satisfied. As for the cage traps, 2 squirrels and a small snake got caught. The turkey can be sold, while the squirrels and snake can be eaten by ourselves. They are too small to be sold, and I doubt someone will even buy them anyway. Zoro kills the squirrels and snake, but he keeps the turkey alive just in case. It can be sold at a higher price if it's alive. So he just ties it with the rope and goes back to his camp. Sometime later, Toro returns and tells Zoro that he has found some potential buyers. Toro sees the turkey, and he approves of Zoro's decision to keep it alive. Most buyers will want the meat very fresh, and there's nothing fresher than a living turkey. Oh, wait. There's a small farm that raises some turkeys. Let's check if they can offer a higher price for it than some restaurants. Sounds good. Let's go to the town then. All right, I'll go ahead to check the place first. As they thought, the price for a live turkey is higher, and the farm is offering more than the restaurant. The reason is because it's a male, and they are always in need of good males, so they will have good offspring. A wild turkey is a good choice because it's stronger than farm-raised male turkeys. They get some money, but obviously it's still not enough to have a good life. It's just a turkey, after all, not a bucket of gold. So for now, they keep the money and think of a way to get more. Toro keeps the money in a different space using his storage jutsu. How does that jutsu work? Actually, I don't really understand it. What I know is I can use a space in another dimension. I can send any non-living things there and take them anytime I want. Can you explain it so that even a little kid can understand? Imagine I have an invisible box to store things that I can access anytime. Ooh, alright, can I learn it? There is a jutsu for it, but mine is special. It's different from the normal storage jutsu, and only I can use it. Also, different from normal storage jutsu, mine is much bigger. I can even fit a mansion in there. Whoa, that's awesome. Right? So you don't really need to learn it, just my storage instead. We are bound by a contract anyway, so we will always be together. A contract? Yes, I am your assistant, remember? Our souls are bound with each other, so we'll always be allies. I see. But why do you become my assistant? Are you also a reincarnated person? No. I told you that a Grim Reaper mistakenly took your life, right? I was that Grim Reaper. What? This is God's command. I need to take responsibility for what I did. So he sent me here to help you in this life until the day you die. You are a Grim Reaper. Zoro is surprised that Toro was the one who made him die too early. But Toro's current appearance is too unconvincing to be seen as a Grim Reaper. I am now just a cat with some abilities that is tasked to assist you. I can only become a Grim Reaper again after I finish my duty here. Are you okay with that? As I said, this is my way to atone for my mistake. It's a very lax punishment. I thought I would be erased from existence when I knew I made that mistake. Erased from existence? Yeah, it's applied to angels who have made very grave mistakes. Well, there hasn't been any angel that received that punishment. Even the fallen angel only receives eternal damnation as the punishment and will suffer for eternity after the world's end. Angel? You were an angel? Grim Reapers are angels of death, tasked to take the souls of living beings and bring them to the afterlife. Oh, all right. So you will always be with me, right? That's right. Great. That means I'll never be alone again in this life. You can start a family in the future, so you'll never be lonely in your whole life. Starting a family, huh? I guess I can do that if I have a good economy at least. I always want to have a wife and children. But I was too poor and barely had enough to sustain myself. So there was no way I could start a family. I couldn't even date any girl because I couldn't buy them presents. Then let's work hard to make it happen. Almost everything is possible if you have power in this world. Right, I'll make sure it can happen. They talk while walking to the garbage dump to search for more materials to make traps. Right now, the only way to earn money that they know is by hunting animals and selling them. It's also a way for them to get food without money. When they search for materials, they realize that a lot of people live around the garbage dump. Zoro thinks about living there as well, but Toro opposes it. Living here is very risky because they can catch serious diseases, which can be much more dangerous than getting bitten by a tiger. There are tigers in the forest? It's just an example. Even if there are tigers in that forest, they will live very deep inside, not on the outskirts near a human town. I just want to say that even if you die in both cases, at least being bitten by a tiger will give you a quick death, while you will suffer for a long time if you have caught a dangerous disease. Well, let's avoid all those cases. I want to live a long life. Absolutely. So let's earn more money. To save money, Zoro and Toro decide to live in the wild. They thought of living in the street at first, because there are many homeless people who live on the street too. But Toro found out it's better to live in the wild. The street and slum are actually being controlled by some thug groups. There are living fees and protection fees that need to be paid weekly to them. They will make trouble for the ones that don't pay them, which is bad for them who are still powerless and penniless. Well, living in the wild is not so bad actually. I used to live in the street, and I feel that the forest is better. The air here is fresh, unlike the street that is filled with the smell of garbage. We usually choose the back alley, which is the most hidden and warm place. But there is a lot of trash there, so the smell is awful. Then, let's make a better living place. It will be better if we can find an empty cave, so we will be protected from rain and wind. I will look for it while you check the traps we've set and make new traps. It will be a good practice to find good spots to make traps. I don't know if I'll get a good result after just practicing once. No problem. Learning while trying is the best way to understand faster. They split and go to do their own tasks. Toro runs very fast to search for a safe cave. Zoro goes to check the traps while looking for spots to set the new traps. There's no unlucky animal yet, so Zoro starts looking for trap spots right away. As he thought, it is difficult to find the spots for the traps after only learning about it once. He spends hours to find the spots he thinks are good. It's almost dark when he finishes, so he checks the old traps again and finds an unlucky hare. Now he doesn't need to worry about dinner, so he quickly resets the trap and returns to his camp. Toro is already waiting there with a stack of green leaves. Did you find a good cave? Yeah, it's quite small and located on a cliff right beside the stream, so most animals won't be able to reach it. What? Won't it be hard for us to reach it too? Not really. We can use a rope to get there after crossing the shallow stream. It's not too high, but most animals shouldn't be able to reach it. We can also secure water for daily use, and there are fish in the stream. Ooh, that's great. Well, it's getting dark already, so let's go there tomorrow morning. All right? But what about those leaves? These are edible plants. Just eating meat is bad for your body because humans aren't carnivores, so you need to eat some veggies too. I couldn't find fruit on my way back, so just eat these leaves. Raw? No, cook them with that hair. We found a small metal pot, right? Boil the meat and veggies together to make a warm soup. The veggies will give the broth some more flavor and maybe reduce the gamey taste of the meat as well. Sounds good. Zoro skins the hare while Toro prepares the fire. Then they boil the meat and veggies. They don't forget to give some salt that they've bought today to the soup. Just adding salt already makes the food taste very delicious compared to the bland meat yesterday. The next morning, they check the traps first before going to the cave. Unfortunately, the only thing they caught is a small lizard that doesn't look appetizing at all. But they still take it because they can use it as bait for the fish traps they're about to make. They go to the cave's location, and it's really a rather good place, just as Toro said. It's placed around 3 meters above the stream, and the entrance is indeed quite small. But it's a good size for a kid like Zoro. There is a rather thick tree growing on the left side of the cave. Toro uses it to tie the rope that they'll use to climb onto the cave. They climb into the cave, and soon Zoro finds a problem. Where will we make fire? If we make it inside the cave, won't the smoke fill the cave and make us unable to breathe? Don't worry, I have thought about it. There are actually gaps to the outside throughout this cave's walls. They are too small for animals to enter, but air can pass through without any problem, so we won't get suffocated by the smoke. Oh, alright then. So what should we do now? Let's make the fish traps first using the bamboos that grow on the riverside. Here, use this machete. Where did you get this? A drunken man that sleeps on the street kindly gave it to me. You stole it. It fell off his hand after he swung it around dangerously in the middle of the night. I just saved people from getting injured by it. Meh, whatever. All is good as long as we don't get caught. I've also stolen things a few times in the past. But let's not make it our habit, or we won't be able to live without it. That goes without saying. Anyway, they cut a big bamboo and start making the fish trap. It's quite a meticulous and difficult work to make a fish trap from bamboo. But once they make it, they can keep using it for a long time. It takes a few hours just to make one fish trap, but the result is quite good. They quickly put the chopped lizard and stones as weight into the fish trap. Then they place it below their cave and secure it with some big stones to prevent it from being carried by the current. After that, they check the traps in the forest and get some results. A wild chicken, a quail, and a hare in the snare traps. Also 2 squirrels and a small brown bird, which they don't know the name of its species, but it should be edible. They decide to not sell anything and make jerky from the meat they won't eat tonight. It's important to secure food with their current lifestyle because they may not get anything for a day or even more. They return to the cave while gathering firewood and edible plants. There are some wild berries on their way, so they take those as well. Today is a really good day because they get a lot of food ingredients. It's still quite bright when they arrive at the cave, so they decide to gather some leaves and grass for their bed. They've used grass and leaves for their bed last night, but it was too thin and uncomfortable, so they need more. After that, Toro set the bed, while Zoro processed the animals they caught. They try to not waste anything, so they keep the unused parts of the animals because they can be used as bait. The internal organs are edible, so they will eat those tonight because they go bad quickly. What's the plan after this, Toro? We'll start your study tomorrow when we have free time. You need to learn quite a lot of things about this world before you can start your training. Ah, that's right. I always want to ask this. How can I understand this world's language as soon as I wake up here? Well, God puts the knowledge about this world's language into your mind when He created your body. But that was the limit because if He puts more knowledge, then your mind won't be able to handle it. So you need to learn other things by yourself. Sigh. I hope He made me smart then. The next day, they start the study after checking the traps and sell what they caught. But Zoro never thought that the books he would read are comic books. He obviously thought he would read some thick science books. Why comic books? I told you, didn't I? This is the world of a story called Naruto. Those comic books that are called manga contain the main story of this world. So by reading them, you are learning about this world already. I see. There are quite a lot of them here. But why are there other books with different titles here? One Piece. Well, I also told you that when God made your body, He was thinking of a character named Zoro. That Zoro is a swordsman from this One Piece story. As your body was made based on him, you will have his talent and power too. Which means you will go down the path of a swordsman. To understand it more, you need to read the One Piece story so you'll know more about Zoro. Oh, okay. I don't really understand now. But you basically say, I will understand more after reading all of these, right? Yeah, they are the basic knowledge you need to know for now. Wait, basic? That means there are more? Of course. Do you think reading stories is enough to help you live in this world? Zoro can already imagine the suffering he'll go through. But there's nothing he can do other than following Toro's advice, because he doesn't know anything yet. From that day, Zoro's daily routines consist of checking traps, setting them again, selling the caught animals if they're valuable, eating the games, and reading manga. Zoro and Toro keep saving up their money too, to the point they start stealing stuff. That's right, they are stealing some necessities instead of buying them. Things like clothes, seasonings, daily tools, and even bed. Toro is the one who steals those things because he can sneak into many places easily and store those things in his subspace storage. But they have standards. They only steal from wealthy people, and not too much at that. They don't even steal money, just items. The clothes are usually not used by the owners anymore. The bed has been discarded. The tools are not used, and they get rusty. Only the seasonings are still used well by the owners, but they are cheap. There are also some miscellaneous items that Toro stole, like candles, plates, soap, etc. Well, they also steal rice, but it's unnoticeable because they take a little from each house. Anyway, life goes just like that for almost 2 months. Zoro is focused on reading the stories that Toro gave him. There are even books that contain explanations about characters, skills, side stories, and other details. These things are harder to understand than I thought. You sure that God made me smart? I told you I don't know, and can only hope that to be the case, because I'm not the one creating your body. Tesk, I hope he didn't make me be as stupid as the real Zoro. This guy is really hopeless when it comes to brain. He has already finished reading Naruto, because he was too absorbed in it, and now already switched to One Piece. That's why now he has some concerns, because even though Zoro's power grows rapidly, his brain doesn't seem to develop much, especially if it's about directions. Phew, it's okay. I never get lost so far. I can even find all the traps we set just fine. There's no way I will be like this guy with a poor sense of direction. It will be fine. Zoro tries to console himself by saying that he won't be like the Zoro from One Piece. Both of them are different people anyway. Although his body's appearance was made based on Zoro, they are not the same, and their souls are very different. Though, I don't mind having his talent in swordsmanship. Just imagining cutting big rocks, or even metals like cutting a cake, is thrilling me. Then, do you want to start training your power now? What? Toro suddenly asks if Zoro wants to train, which is surprising because this cat always told him to just study. What kind of training? Swordsmanship, of course. God said he gave you One Piece's Zoro's swordsmanship talent. You just need proper training and guidance. Then you will be as strong as him. No, wait. God made your body himself, so maybe you can grow even more powerful than that Zoro. It will all depend on your effort. Even with the same talent, your limits will be different depending on how much your bodies can grow to hold your power. Besides, I doubt the talent that God gave you is truly at the same level as Zoro's real talent. It might be more, because he always said that Zoro will grow to be the greatest swordsman in the world. So? Idiot. The greatest in One Piece world isn't the same as the greatest in Naruto world. I don't know how much difference the power scales of these two worlds are. But if we count everything, the Naruto world should be stronger. After all, there is at least an alien race that can travel between planets and destroy them. The Otsutsuki clan. That's right. Though we haven't seen the end of One Piece story yet, so we can't be sure. There might be things that can destroy planets easily too. After all, there's at least a weapon that can obliterate an island easily. The Mother Flame? Yeah, and some powerful characters actually can destroy an island by themselves. And that is without the assistance of outside power. I'm not talking about those with devil fruits like Kaido, Big Mom, or Whitebeard. But those like Garp, Shanks, and Roger. They only depended on their own selves, and they can destroy mountains or islands with their own hands. So we can't be sure which world is stronger. Well, okay. It's too complicated for him to understand. so he just stops thinking about it. He only understands that he has great talent and potential. All is good as long as he can protect himself in this dangerous world anyway. But he also knows he needs to be very strong to protect himself. Especially when the great war that involves 10 tails happens. He doesn't plan to get involved, but he never knows what will happen in the future. He might get dragged to it, even if he is unwilling, so he needs to keep getting stronger. Besides, after reading both stories, he becomes quite ambitious. What if he really becomes the strongest swordsman here? Won't that be really awesome? So, what should I do first? For now, you need to train your body. We will unlock your chakra after you gain some muscles. The better your physical power, the better it will be when you unlock your chakra. Toro then summons a book containing physical training menus. There are many levels of physical training that will last even until he becomes very powerful. But for now, he needs to start from level 1, which is just basic training. Running, push-ups, sit-ups, squats, pull-ups, and even swimming. He needs to train those every single day, and Toro will use medical jutsu to recover his muscles at night. It will make sure he can train every day and make his muscles grow faster. You're really serious about being my assistant, huh? That's my job, after all. God gave me skills to support you in this life. I can even act as a matchmaker if you want, ha ha ha. Ugh, no need for that. I'll do that kind of thing myself. Zoro is going all out with his training. He's very vigorous for a few days. But then he slowly starts losing motivation because everything is monotonous, and he can't see the result yet. Luckily, Toro is there to whip his motivation, so he can keep going even if he is unwilling. He forces himself to keep training, because Toro says he needs to keep doing it until it becomes a habit. Then finally, after 3 months of physical training, Toro says Zoro is ready to unlock his chakra. That night, they get ready to unlock Zoro's chakra path. He sits cross-legged on the floor in their cave, only wearing pants, and Toro is behind him. Zoro takes a deep breath when Toro puts his paws on Zoro's back. Concentrate. Feel the chakra that I insert into your body. Remember that sensation so you can control your chakra yourself later. Dim blue light covers Toro's paws, and Zoro can feel something flowing from his back. It spreads all over his body like water. The flowing sensation is quite strange, but it's also soothing and calming, making him energized even though sweats keep coming out of his pores. Zoro is concentrating very hard to feel the flow. He can feel the flow of chakra keeps getting blocked many times in many spots, but the blockades keep getting broken with some push. Each time a blockade is broken, Zoro feels more refreshed and powerful. It takes almost an hour for them to finish opening all of Zoro's chakra paths. It's tiring, but also refreshing at the same time, like being able to move after sleeping for a long time. How is it? I can't really explain it, but I can feel the chakra keeps flowing inside my body. It's so strange. Keep trying to understand that. Chakra is an essential power for you to grow in this world. Yeah, this will be awesome. With his chakra finally unlocked, now Zoro has officially stepped into the path of power in this world. With his chakra unlocked, Zoro can finally start his real training. He will start training his swordsmanship now. His training starts the next day after he unlocked his chakra. Wait, who will teach me the swordsmanship? Will it be you, Toro? No, I am a cat, so I can't teach a human how to use swords. Huh? Then how will I train? You don't expect me to just read books about swordsmanship, right? I don't think that will work. Of course, that won't work. That's why God has prepared a special training method for you. Toro tells Zoro to sit cross-legged and close his eyes. Then Toro sits on his lap, and suddenly Zoro's surroundings change. He suddenly appears in a dojo that looks very similar to the one that One Piece's Zoro used to train in the past. This is Shimitsuki Village's dojo that the character Roronoa Zoro used to train in his childhood. Toro suddenly appears beside him. Then, are we in One Piece world now? No, this is simply an illusion. A very powerful illusion that I made. A genjutsu. What? This is a special genjutsu god created just for you to train your swordsmanship. You will train your skills here every day to make you understand Roronoa Zoro's swordsmanship. Suddenly, a tall and muscular figure with green hair appears in front of them. This is your instructor, the copy of One Piece's Roronoa Zoro. Well, calling it a copy is also wrong. You can say he is an illusory being made based on the real Roronoa Zoro. He doesn't have Roronoa Zoro's personality, and only has his skills that he will teach you. But be careful, he is a strict instructor. Zoro gulps his saliva while looking at the adult Zoro. Then with that, his training in the genjutsu realm starts. That's wrong. If you hold your sword like that, you will break your wrists sooner or later. Your stance is also wrong. It needs to be lower. Instructor Zoro is really strict with his teaching, and he keeps yelling at Zoro. Calling you both Zoro is making me confused. Then I will call him Instructor Marimo to make it easier. What are you saying, Toro? Huffed. Nothing. Just talking to myself. Don't get distracted, you little shrimp. Do you think the path of sword is easy? Zoro is still training the basic, which is just the basic stance and the basic swing. He still just uses one sword instead of 3 right away because it's still the basic. But it's already very difficult because Instructor Marimo's training is too harsh. He trains in the genjutsu realm for just an hour because it's the limit of this genjutsu technique. So he needs to continue training in real life to make good progress. Toro prepares the necessary tools like bamboo swords and a dummy for him to train in the real world. In the real world, he doesn't just train his swordsmanship, but also his physical power and chakra control. Instructor Marimo only teaches swordsmanship skills and theories. For physical training, Zoro learns it from books, and Toro teaches him chakra control. His daily training routines since that day are physical training in the morning, swordsmanship training in the afternoon, and chakra control training in the evening. He does all that while still hunting animals with traps too. His days are getting harder each day, but he is actually enjoying it now. It is very tiring, and he feels like dying almost every day with all his harsh training. But it's also very fun seeing himself get better and stronger every day. He never had something he enjoyed doing and wanted to do out of his own will before. In his past life, he just did things out of necessities to survive. Now, he actually finds something he loves and earnestly wants to be good at. He doesn't have a grand dream like the real Zoro, who wants to be the strongest swordsman in the world. What he wants is simply being better and better every day in his swordsmanship. He wants to keep growing until he reaches his limit. What will you do once you hit your limit? Then it will be the end. Huh? You give up just like that? I thought you would say you'll break that limit. Toro, if a limit can be broken, then that's not the limit. That's simply an obstacle I need to break through. A limit is the end of the way. It's like death. When people die, that means they have reached the limit of their life. There's nothing they can do about it. But if they are sick, then no matter how serious their illness is, there is always a chance of them getting cured, even if it's very low. I never thought about it like that. No one actually knows their limit. When they think they've reached their limit, they might actually just encounter a very big obstacle that they can't break through. Then they either give up before breaking it, or they lose the chance to break that obstacle forever if they die. Toro is very shocked right now. He isn't shocked by Zoro's theory, but more shocked by the fact that Zoro can think of all of those things. All right then, work hard. Toro says that with a disbelief expression. He just doesn't know that Zoro once heard it from his colleague, who repeated what his boss said. It just sounds cool. So he remembered it, even though it was just the boss's way to make the employees work harder. Anyway, it's aligned with Zoro's current wish. What he wants is just to keep growing until he really can't grow anymore. If then he becomes the strongest, then so be it. It's just a bonus of him growing stronger. In my past life, I was dreaming of being a very rich person who lives in a big mansion and being served by many servants. But when I read the stories, I realized how fascinating this world is. There are places that I want to see myself, like the hidden villages, the giant frog's mountain, the snail's forest, the snake's cave, and many more. Having money is important, but it is just a tool to help me get what I want, and now I want to see the world and get stronger. Getting stronger, huh? What a typical dream for people in the world of power. What's wrong with that? Nothing, it's not wrong, just that it's very generic. Well, it's not like I want to be a cage or get those important positions. Being free is the best. I can do anything I want and go anywhere I want. But I also need power to make sure no one can get in my way. Don't you want to change the story now that you know what will happen? Why should I? It's not like I have an obligation to do something. They are also strangers to me, so I don't need to help them. It's not like they are my friends or family. I'll just do what I want without thinking about them. Besides, they are ninjas, right? They are trained to fight, and they should be ready to die anytime. So even if it looks pitiful in the story, the death of many characters is something that they should be ready for as ninjas. The same also applies to those people in One Piece, as they are pirates or marines. If something happens in the future that makes me need to interfere with the story, then I'll do it then. But I don't care about being involved or not in the story. I want to enjoy my second life for myself. This is my life, and I will dedicate it for myself, not others who are unrelated to me. Once again, Toro is surprised by what Zoro says. This time, what Zoro says truly comes from himself, from his feelings and desires. If he devotes himself to change the plot of the story, then his second life will be meaningless because he gets it in exchange for the years of life he lost in his past life. For him, helping others is not wrong, it's good. But if that costs him his happiness, then he won't do it. He will help if he has the ability and time to do it. Helping when he's unable to is the same as giving others false hope. I will pursue my own happiness, and now what gives me happiness is getting stronger. So I'll keep getting stronger. Time flies and Zoro's training keeps going without a hitch. He trains almost every day and only takes a break once every week, or when he is unwell. Toro never thought that Zoro would be this dedicated in his training. His swordsmanship training still consists of the training in Genjutsu world with instructor Moss Head, and the training in the real world by himself to review what he learned in Genjutsu world. Toro increases the time he spends in Genjutsu world slowly as his skills get better. He started with training just using one sword, and now he finally trains using 3 swords after 2 years of training. Zoro needed to train from just 1 sword, then 2 swords, and lastly 3 swords because he needs to learn all from the basics. Besides, he needs to train his hands' coordination and strength to use more than 1 sword. Holding a sword just with a hand means that the power of his attacks will be lower than using 2 hands. So he needs to make his arms and hands very strong to still able to use powerful attacks with just 1 sword in 1 hand. He also needs to make sure his hands and arms can move as he wants, especially his left side. This issue is more difficult than just making both of his arms almost equally powerful. After all, it's like trying to write with his left hand as a right-handed person. Anyway, Zoro's body is now the same as a 7YO boy. Toro says he should use that age as his identity in this world. Roronoa Zoro, 7YO, orphan. It will help in some situations if he has an official age in this world. Zoro is used to living in the wild with Toro now. They still go to the town, sometimes to sell whatever they catch or things they find. Going to the town is also a good way to collect information about the outside world, so they can react when things might happen to them. From his frequent visit to the town, they know that there is a big wad between shinobi villages now. They call it the Second Shinobi Great War, and it started around the same time as Zoro's arrival in this world. But Zoro never intended to get involved in that war or the future wars. Not only does it not benefit him, he is also still too weak to participate now. But he needs to keep updated about the war, because there's always a possibility that it will reach this place. This town is located in the Land of Lightning, one of the countries involved in this war. That's why there is always a possibility of the war to reach this town. It's still peaceful now, but no one knows what will happen tomorrow. Zoro knows full well of that danger, so he keeps training. His survival chance will get higher the stronger he becomes. Although he never fights in real life, he has fought Instructor Moss Head many times in the Genjutsu world, so at least he knows how to fight a little. After 2 years of swordsmanship training, Zoro is finally allowed to use real metal swords. Now he can really train to slash and cut the training dummies instead of just hitting them. Toro gives him 3 identical katana swords. They're heavier than I thought. That's why you have been training with bamboo swords that have weights tied on them. It was to train your arms and prepare you for the real sword's weights. Zoro swings around the katanas to get used to them. He bites one of the katanas too, because he uses 3-sword style. Of course, he has been training his bite and jaws using bamboo swords and weights, so he can also attack with the sword in his mouth. He has trained using katanas in Genjutsu world, but never in real world. Now he can finally use them in the real world, and it obviously makes him excited. He keeps swinging his swords using the skills he has learned in the last 2 years. Then after some time, Toro summons a dummy for Zoro to try his katana. Zoro quickly tries using a cross slash on the dummy. He uses his full strength, but he can't cut the dummy in half, only manages to leave a rather deep cross cut on the dummy's body. Tisk. Using real swords is harder than I thought. If it's easy, then everyone will be a swordsman. Makes sense. Zoro starts training using real swords from that day, both in the real world and Genjutsu world. He needs to learn how to cut his targets using his swords, because even with very sharp swords, cutting dummies or even living beings is still difficult without proper strength and skills. It's difficult enough that Zoro needs to start slashing with just one sword using both hands. He tries slashing using real swords starting from basic techniques. He believes it will help him understand the slashes quicker, and it really is. Using just one sword with both hands makes slashing easier. It makes him understand how the sword should move to make a good slash. So after he can slash with just one sword, he starts using 2 swords, and the feeling of slashing with just one sword helps him to understand how to slash with 2 swords faster too. But a problem still remains. He needs to learn how to slash with the 3rd sword in his mouth as well. It is obviously much more difficult to do than slashing using the swords in his hands, because he needs to train his jaws and neck to be as good as his hands and arms for that. Still, he needs to learn it, so he keeps training to do it every day. But it isn't his main training, because he still has a lot of things to learn. So he trains it after doing his main training to improve his 3 swords style swordsmanship's main skills. Time flies, and luckily the war doesn't reach this place even after 3 more years. He heard that the Second Shinobi War has been stopped recently, so Zoro doesn't need to worry about it. But it doesn't mean he can be careless, because the danger isn't just war. This world still has many dangers like the criminal shinobis that roam around the world. Akatsuki shouldn't be formed yet as of now, but they are not the only criminal group in the world. They are just more known in the story because they are the main antagonists for years. Besides, while the war has stopped, it doesn't mean the conflict between hidden villages has stopped as well. They just stopped doing it openly with a lot of people because they have lost too many men in the war. But their desire to destroy other hidden villages and become the best hasn't disappeared. So there will still be fights between those villages until the next war starts. The 10 Zoro can only hope that he won't get dragged into their never-ending conflicts. Hey, kid, do you want to leave this place? Huh? Why are you suddenly asking that, Toro? Toro suddenly asks such a question to Zoro when he trains. I am getting bored of this place and our routines. Every day is almost the same. But you're the one who refused to live in the town, even though I asked you many times. And I've told you that there are too many restrictions in the town, like you can't train properly there. We need to pay rent, pay taxes too. It's noisy. And also we can't run away easily if something bad happens. We'll get trapped in the town if the war really reaches this place. All right. So what do you want to do? Let's move to another town. Will we be fine though? I heard that there are many bandits on the roads between towns. Also, they say the number of rogue ninjas increases after the war. So the outside of towns are getting more dangerous because no one knows where those rogue ninjas are. They can be near our town and attack us anytime. Well, that's dangerous indeed. Sigh. Then let's stay here for now. But we need to plan on leaving sooner or later. We can't stay here forever. I know. If I want to get stronger, I can't just train alone like this. I need real experience, real battles. So I need to go on a journey to different places. But for now, I don't think my skills are enough to help us survive on our journey. I need to be strong enough first, or I will die before even being as old as I was in my past life. The time for Zoro's journey will come soon. So he needs to keep training until then to make sure he is strong enough to protect himself. After all, he isn't Naruto, who can solve a lot of problems with just talking. And he certainly doesn't believe he has that plot armor thingy. So he needs to keep training and become strong. It actually doesn't take too long for Zoro and Toro to leave that town. A year after that talk, they leave that town and go to a bigger town. They join a caravan after paying with the money they've collected for more than 3 years. But life in that bigger town is not as good as they thought. There are just too many problems in that town. They soon know that the town's mayor is exploiting almost everything here, and no one can do anything because he has the support of the Lightning Daimyo, as he is the daimyo's relative. Don't want to get involved in messed up problems. Zoro and Toro leave the town after just staying there for a few days. They decide to go to a farming village quite far from the towns, instead of going to another town. Their experience in that big town made them realize they prefer a peaceful place. So a farming village should be a better place for them now. Staying in a peaceful place like a village will allow them to do a lot of things without much worries. The village they choose as their new home is close to a mountain. There's a big river near the village and a big forest on the other side of the river that spans to the top of the mountain. That means they can use their hunting skills to secure food and make money. Unsurprisingly, the village doesn't have many people. A lot of people from this village left to find jobs and live in big towns or even cities. The ones left here are mostly old people. There aren't a lot of young families here, so there are only some children too. The villagers are welcoming Zoro and Toro, although they are quite skeptical about letting a young child and a cat live alone. Rather than worrying that they might have bad reasons, the villagers are more worried whether both of them can even do things by themselves. Please don't worry about us. We have hunting experience because we often hunted with my father before he passed away. Both of them have prepared a backstory about why they live by themselves. The backstory is Zoro being a hunter's son, but his father died some weeks ago. His mother has died years ago, and now he only has Toro. Living in a town by himself is difficult because a lot of things are expensive there, especially the apartment rent. So he decided to go to a village with his cat to live there where the housing is cheaper, and he can get food from the wild. Is there any small house, or even just a room for me to rent? If not, then I can make a camp. What are you saying? A camp. Do you want to live in the open? Well, we often made camps when it was too late to go back to town, so we will be fine. No, that's not okay. Even if there is no empty house, we won't let a child like you live in a tent here. All right, thank you, sir. Sigh. There are some empty houses in this village, actually. Their owners have passed away, and their children who were supposed to inherit the houses have gone to the cities. But are you sure you want to live alone? I won't be alone. Toro will live with me. Besides, we are used to doing daily chores ourselves, so we will be fine. Haha, you're right. You have your cat friend with you. Well, there's a small house that you can use. Its previous owner was also a hunter that still hunted, even when he got old. He passed away 4 years ago, and told us we can use anything he had as we please because he didn't have children or relatives. We have taken a number of things we needed, but there are still a lot of things there, especially hunting equipment. You can just use that house and everything there. No need to pay rent. I'm sure he would be happy if his tools were used to hunt, instead of being left to gain rust in that house. Are you sure I don't need to pay? Yeah, but that house is at the outskirts of the village, quite far from other houses because of his job as a hunter. So he preferred being close to the forest. How about we check it first before you decide? Yes, please. They go to the house, and it's really a rather small wooden house. Well, the previous owner lived alone here, so he didn't need a big house. It's dirty here because no one lived here for 4 years, so you will need to do some cleaning. No problem. Cleaning is not a difficult job for me because I used to do it. How about doing it tomorrow? I can ask the villagers to help you clean this place. You can stay in my house for tonight. It's all right. I have been resting in the carriage for hours, so I want to move my body. I'll at least clean the bedroom today, and we'll continue tomorrow if I'm not done cleaning the whole house today. Well, turns out cleaning this house isn't as easy as Zoro thought. There is a lot of dirt and trash in every room. Some unwanted creatures like rats and roaches even live here, so there are a lot of their excrement everywhere, making the smell quite unbearable. They don't want to live with rats, so Toro is doing a very important task, hunting rats. Toro hunts the rats in the whole house, while Zoro is cleaning the bedroom. They can't do much about the roaches for now, so they just focus on the rats and cleaning. One day is not enough to clean this whole house, even if it's small. Zoro has cleaned the bedroom, but he still doesn't want to sleep inside with the other rooms still dirty. So he builds a tent outside the house using the second-hand small tent they bought. They continue cleaning the next day, and the villagers actually come to help. The village chief really asked them to help clean the house. With their help, the house gets cleaned very fast, and they even give Zoro some items like futon, tableware, kitchen tools, and even warm food. He thanks them and promises to give them meat after he hunts. The villagers are very kind to him that it makes Zoro feel strange about it, because he almost never receives such kindness. That's why now he is wary of the villagers, worried that they have ulterior motives. It can't be helped that he is being vigilant, because he has lived a very rough life. Also, there's no way he can trust people he has just seen immediately. Toro also feels the same. The villagers being very kind makes them even more wary, so they will be careful. Thankfully, the villagers are truly just being kind to them. Their life in the village is very peaceful, and they can train without any disturbance. They can also eat better things here than in their previous place, because the villagers often share the harvest with each other. Anyway, now Zoro can train without any problem, and he can actually sleep in a warm place now. There is still no one to fight here, so he can't improve his skills. But he has started using his swordsmanship on living beings. He now uses his swords to kill the animals they hunt. They still use traps for both big and small animals, but they also directly hunt them now to make sure they can get prey every day, because sometimes they couldn't catch anything with their traps. Their direct hunting method is by searching their prey. Then Torao will scare their prey and lead the prey towards Zoro, who hides somewhere. After that, Zoro will appear right in front of the prey and slash it. They started using this method since Zoro can slash dummies easily with his swords a few months ago. Then he tried using it on the animals caught by their traps. It was easy with small animals like chickens and rabbits, but he struggled to cut the bones of big animals like deer. So this is not just hunting, but also training for Zoro's swordsmanship. That's why they are targeting big animals like deer, goat, or boar. Boar is especially more difficult because it doesn't have a long neck like deer and goat, so he can only slash its head. His katanas already have quite a lot of chippings on their edges.